Ethan Cole lived a quiet life in the small town of Maplewood, a place where everyone knew each other but rarely bothered anyone. He enjoyed the simplicity of his days, fixing machines, tending his small garden, and reading old mechanical manuals in the evenings. His house sat at the edge of the forest, a modest brick structure with peeling paint, a wooden porch, and a yard full of wildflowers. Most people thought he was strange. He didn't socialize much, but Ethan didn't mind. Silence was his comfort. One evening, as a heavy rainstorm rolled over Maplewood, Ethan was fixing the engine of an old truck in his garage. The rain pounded against the roof and the wind howled through the trees. He had just tightened the last bolt when a loud crash echoed from the forest. Metal twisted and a bright light flashed through the rain. His heart raced. Curiosity always got the better of him. He grabbed his flashlight and ran outside, water soaking through his jacket. The rain had washed away the muddy tracks, but the light led him to a small clearing deep in the woods. There, half buried in the mud, was a strange silver vessel, no bigger than a car with small blinking lights along its hull. Smoke rose from a dented section and the air smelled faintly of ozone. Ethan stepped closer, unsure what he would find. Then he noticed movement inside the vessel. A soft, human-like voice whispered, "Please, help me." His heart jumped. He cautiously approached and peered into the cockpit. There was a woman, or at least she looked human at first glance. Her skin had a soft silver shimmer, and her eyes glowed a gentle blue. Her hair floated slightly, as if weightless. She was weak, lying across a metallic chair with small tubes and lights attached to her body. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. She tried to speak but only managed a faint, broken sentence. "A danger. Coming." Her hand reached out to him, almost invisible against the light of the vessel. Ethan didn't hesitate. He carefully lifted her into his arms. She was surprisingly light, almost as if she had no weight at all. "I've got you. Don't worry," he said, running through the rain back to his house. Her eyes followed him, glowing softly, filled with something he couldn't quite understand. Fear, trust, or something else entirely. Back at the house, Ethan laid her gently on his couch. He grabbed towels and blankets to dry her. She shivered, and her glowing eyes flickered as if they were mirrors reflecting the firelight. He noticed her features, delicate, almost perfect, with faint markings on her arms that pulsed softly. She was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. The alien woman, who eventually whispered her name as Lyra, managed a weak smile. "House. Wife. Lost." Her voice was soft, musical, yet broken. Ethan furrowed his brows. "A housewife? From where?" Over the next few days, Ethan tended to Lyra. He cooked simple meals and helped her sit up, carefully avoiding touching anything that might hurt her. Despite her alien appearance, there was something familiar about her movements, the way she tried to help, even in her weak state. She cleaned small things around the house, adjusted cushions, and arranged flowers in a way that made his home feel alive. Lyra was polite but distant at first, and Ethan could sense a deep sadness behind her glowing eyes. One evening, while he was fixing a leaky pipe in the kitchen, she approached him slowly, her hands moving with delicate precision. "You... kind," she said. Her accent was strange, almost melodic, but her words were understandable. "You help." "Why?" Ethan paused, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked at her carefully. "Because no one should be left alone, especially someone who doesn't understand this world yet." Lyra tilted her head, studying him with glowing eyes. She didn't respond immediately, but she stayed by his side. Slowly, a bond began to form, not through words but through small gestures. She would hum quietly while arranging his tools, or pour water into a plant's leaves instead of just the soil. There was a grace to her actions that felt almost human. As she recovered, Lyra began to speak more about herself. She said she came from a distant planet, one destroyed by war. Her people were caretakers, designed to maintain homes and serve families. But something happened, something terrible. Her vessel was damaged during a flight from unknown pursuers. She could not explain much. Fear made her hesitate. One evening, as rain poured against the windows again, Lyra stood by the fireplace watching the flames. "My world. Gone, my family. Gone." "Run," she whispered. Ethan sat beside her, unsure what to say. The quietness of his home felt different now, no longer empty but filled with something fragile and precious. Days passed. and Lyra's attempts to help around the house became more confident. She cooked simple meals, cleaned the floor, and even tried making small decorations using strange glowing plants she somehow produced from a container he didn't recognize. Ethan watched her quietly, feeling a strange warmth he had never experienced before. But Ethan also noticed something troubling. At night, when she thought he was asleep, Lyra would stare out the window at the sky, her glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight. Occasionally, her body would pulse faintly, as if she were communicating with someone far away. He never asked at first. He didn't want to frighten her. Then one night, the forest around his house shimmered with small lights like fireflies, but organized, moving in strange patterns. Lyra froze, her hand resting on the window. Her eyes glowed brighter, and she whispered, "They come." Ethan's heart skipped. "Who's coming?" he asked, though he already feared the answer. "They want me," she said, voice trembling. "They take back. I cannot." Ethan held her hand, feeling its warmth despite the soft shimmer. "You're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you," he said, his voice firm. Her eyes softened, but the worry did not fade. For the first time, Ethan understood that this was more than an alien visitor. She was a being with feelings, fears, and a desire to live freely, far beyond anything he had expected. The storm outside continued for hours, yet inside the house, a fragile peace grew. Ethan watched Lyra, fascinated by the way her glowing eyes shifted with emotion. He wondered what it would take to protect her from the world she had fled, and what kind of life could exist between a human and a being so unlike him. By the next morning, the forest outside had returned to its quiet state, but Lyra remained uneasy. She helped Ethan repair small things around the house silently, but every few moments she would glance toward the window or the sky. Ethan began to realize that her presence was not just a coincidence. Someone was searching for her. Ethan didn't know who or what they were, but he knew one thing clearly. He couldn't let her face it alone. That night, as he prepared a simple meal, Lyra approached him. Her hands rested lightly on his shoulders. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved me," Ethan smiled faintly. "You don't have to thank me, just stay safe." Her eyes shimmered brighter than ever before, and for a moment she looked almost human, vulnerable and trusting. Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest, a connection he had never experienced with anyone before. He didn't understand it fully, but he knew it mattered. As the rain fell gently outside, Ethan realized that his quiet life had changed forever. A visitor from the stars had come into his home, fragile and lost, and somehow he had become her protector. What challenges lay ahead he could not know, but he understood one simple truth. Lyra depended on him, and in that dependence, a bond was forming that neither of them could have imagined. For now the house was quiet, safe. And yet, outside the walls the universe watched, waiting for the next move. And Ethan, alone in his quiet home for so long, felt for the first time the weight and wonder of responsibility, friendship, and something that might grow into more. The morning after the storm, the sunlight spilled softly through the windows of Ethan's small house. Outside, the forest glistened with dew, and the air smelled fresh and alive. Ethan sipped his coffee, glancing at Lyra, who was already tidying the kitchen. She moved with precision, carefully arranging utensils and wiping counters, yet her eyes kept darting toward the forest as if expecting danger. Ethan cleared his throat. "Lyra, yesterday you said something about running. Can you tell me more about that?" She paused, her hand on a plate, and slowly turned to face him. For a moment her glowing blue eyes dimmed slightly, reflecting hesitation and fear. "My home. Gone," she whispered. "War destroyed. Everything, my people. Scattered, some taken, some erased." Ethan frowned, taking a slow sip of his coffee. "Erased? What do you mean?" "They remove old, faulty," Lyra said softly. Defective. They wanted me. Return, dismantle." Her words were broken, but the meaning was clear. Someone or something was hunting her. Ethan set down his cup. "And that's why you came here?" Lyra nodded, her shoulders trembling slightly. "Yes, Earth. Far safe, I hope." For the first time, Ethan understood the depth of what he had taken in. This wasn't just a lost traveler from another world. This was a being running for her life, from a civilization that had the power and will to erase her entirely. He felt a strange mixture of fear and protectiveness swell inside him. "Okay," he said slowly, trying to calm his racing thoughts. "Then we need to make sure you're really safe here. I'll fix your vessel, or at least make it secure, and until then no one gets near this place." Lyra's eyes softened. "Thank you. I do not know how humans protect." "You'll learn," Ethan said with a small smile. "And you'll teach me too, I think. I don't know much about your world, but I know enough to keep you safe." Over the next few days, Ethan watched her closely. She began to speak more freely, her words still accented and broken but growing clearer each day. Lyra told him about her planet, a serene world now gone where caretakers like her were considered part of the family. She explained how her people valued home, routine, and care, creating safe, structured environments for their loved ones. They thought life only with purpose, she said one afternoon as she polished the windows. "We maintain clean, safe, happy, but my world destroyed by others. War, chaos." Ethan nodded, trying to picture a society so orderly, yet vulnerable enough to be destroyed. He thought of his own quiet life in Maplewood, and he realized how fragile safety could be. Yet here was Lyra, a creature of order surviving the chaos of the universe and now relying on him to continue living. One evening, Ethan returned home later than usual. Lyra was sitting by the fireplace, her hands folded, her glowing eyes dimmed to a soft glow. "You are late," she said softly, almost like an observation rather than a complaint. "I had work at the garage," Ethan replied, shrugging off his wet jacket. "The rain slowed everything down." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "Humans, strange. You do not fear unknown, yet help." Ethan smiled faintly. "Fear doesn't always stop you from doing what's right. Sometimes it teaches you who you are." Lyra's eyes brightened a little. She seemed to consider his words carefully, as if trying to understand the concept of courage in humans. Then she spoke quietly. "I do not know courage like you." "You'll see," Ethan said, settling into a chair opposite her. "You've already shown me your courage. You came here alone, facing the unknown. That's more than most humans can manage." Lyra looked away, glancing toward the window at the forest. For a moment she was silent. Then she whispered, "They find me soon." Ethan's chest tightened. He had suspected that Lyra was being hunted, but hearing it again, spoken with such certainty, made the danger feel immediate. "Then we'll be ready," he said firmly. "I don't care who or what comes. You're not going anywhere alone." The next few days were tense. Ethan worked on the alien vessel, trying to understand its systems while Lyra assisted in small ways, observing his methods with curiosity. Despite her strength, she seemed restless, her energy levels fluctuating unpredictably. She would clean one moment, then stare into the night sky the next, as if listening for something only she could hear. Finally, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra spoke again. Her voice was hesitant, almost fragile. "I have secret, cannot tell." Before, Ethan leaned forward, concerned. "What secret?" Lyra's glowing eyes met his, filled with emotion he could not name. "Before my world destroyed, I tried to hide something. They hunted, not just me, others like me. But I hold memory, special, can help live." Ethan frowned. "A memory? What kind of memory?" "It, power, knowledge, can rebuild, safe place, but dangerous if wrong hands." Her voice faltered. "I cannot risk Earth alone." Ethan understood instantly. This wasn't just about survival anymore. Lyra carried knowledge, valuable, potentially dangerous knowledge. He realized that by protecting her, he was not only saving her life, but also guarding something that could change the balance of worlds. That night, they sat together by the fireplace, Lyra holding a small, glowing device she had retrieved from her vessel. She did not explain its function fully, only that it contained pieces of her lost world, plans, histories, and lessons from her people. "You want safe keep, yes?" she asked softly. "Yes," Ethan said firmly, "and I will. You don't have to face anyone alone." For the first time, Lyra smiled, a full, genuine smile that lit her entire face. Ethan felt a strange warmth, a bond forming that went beyond words. The next day, Ethan decided to explore the forest surrounding his house, checking for any traces of the pursuers. Lyra accompanied him, moving silently beside him. She pointed out hidden paths and subtle signs of disturbance, teaching him how to read tracks and signs that he would have otherwise ignored. They advanced, track almost invisible, she explained. Few, like me, survive, alone. Ethan nodded, impressed by her knowledge. Then it's a good thing I'm not alone either, he said. Lyra paused, looking at him with glowing eyes that seemed almost human in their intensity. Together, maybe, safe, longer, she said softly. For the first time, Ethan realized how much he had come to depend on her presence. Not just as a mysterious guest, but as someone who made his life fuller, warmer and unexpectedly vibrant. However, the peace was fragile. That night, a faint signal pulsed through the small radio Ethan used for listening to local broadcasts. The signal was strange, mechanical, rhythmic, and impossible to trace. Lyra froze, her hand gripping his arm. They find me, she whispered. Soon, very soon. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness. Then we'll be ready, he said firmly, though his mind raced. He did not yet know who they were, only that they were relentless and powerful. As they sat together, the fire casting flickering shadows, Ethan realized that the world he knew, the quiet, predictable life in Maplewood, was gone. In its place was a new reality, an alien visitor, a secret past, and the promise of danger and adventure beyond anything he had imagined. Yet, even with fear pressing at the edges of their small home, a bond of trust and friendship had begun to form. Lyra, once a solitary figure running from her past, began to see Ethan as a companion, a protector, a friend, maybe something more. And Ethan, who had lived alone for so long, felt for the first time that his life had meaning beyond work and routine. As the night deepened, they sat together in silence, listening to the gentle hum of the vessel she had brought with her, now safely hidden in his garage. Outside, the forest was still. But both of them knew it would not remain quiet forever. The universe was watching, and soon the secrets Lyra carried and the courage Ethan had discovered in himself would be tested in ways neither of them could yet imagine. And as dawn approached, Ethan silently promised himself, no matter what came, he would protect Lyra, and he would face whatever the stars sent their way. The night was heavy with silence. A soft wind rustled through the trees, carrying the smell of wet earth and pine. Ethan sat in his small living room, glancing at Lyra as she stood near the window, her glowing blue eyes fixed on the forest. She had grown quieter over the past few days, her usually precise movements slowed by worry. They're coming, she whispered, her voice almost a trembling breeze. Ethan stood, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. We'll be ready, he said, trying to sound confident. Inside, however, his mind raced. He had spent days preparing, reinforcing the house, creating small traps around the perimeter and studying the signals she had received. But nothing could prepare him fully for what was coming. Hours later, the first signs appeared. The forest beyond the yard shimmered faintly, and 3 tall figures emerged, stepping from the shadows. They were unlike any creature Ethan had ever seen. Their bodies were encased in sleek armor that reflected the moonlight, and their faces were hidden behind smooth metallic helmets. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, and eerily silent. Lyra gasped softly. Here, she whispered, her hand gripping Ethan's arm. Ethan swallowed hard but stood tall. Lyra, stay behind me, he said firmly. I won't let them take you. The lead figure stepped forward, its voice mechanical and sharp. Return the subject. She is property of the Ascendants. Resistance is unnecessary, Ethan frowned.
Property?
She's not property. She's a person. You can't just take her. Lyra's glowing eyes brightened with fear and relief. For the first time, she seemed to understand the stakes of Ethan's courage. He wasn't just defending her. He was declaring that she had a right to live freely. The second figure moved forward, gesturing with a metallic hand. Objection noted. Compliance required. Any resistance will be neutralized. Ethan clenched his fists. Neutralized. The word sent a shiver down his spine. He wasn't a trained soldier. He was just a mechanic, a man who spent his days fixing machines. Yet in this moment he knew he had no choice but to act. Lyra, can you help me? He asked quietly. She nodded, her eyes glowing softly. I try, but weak. Combat. Ethan stepped forward, moving into a defensive position. He grabbed a long metal pipe from the side of the porch, holding it like a staff. "Then we'll do it together," he said firmly. The armored figures advanced. Their movements were precise, almost robotic, but Ethan's knowledge of his own environment gave him an edge. He led them through the yard, ducking behind trees and using the traps he had set: tripwires, oil slicks, and hidden pits. The first figure fell into a pit, its armor clanging against the wooden walls, while the second slipped on the oil, struggling to regain balance. Lyra, despite her initial fear, moved with surprising agility. She lifted small objects from the ground and hurled them with pinpoint accuracy, distracting the armored pursuers and giving Ethan the openings he needed to maneuver. "You fight well," she said quietly, her glowing eyes wide with astonishment. Ethan grinned briefly, even as adrenaline surged through him. "I'm a quick learner," he replied. The lead figure recovered and charged toward Ethan. The man swung the metal pipe, hitting the armored chest with all his strength. Sparks flew as the metal clanged against the alien armor. Ethan stumbled backward, heart racing, but the figure paused, assessing him. In that moment, Lyra leaped forward, touching the figure's shoulder with a small device she had carried from her vessel. A soft hum filled the air, and the armored figure froze, its movement slowing until it collapsed into the mud. Ethan stared in shock. "What did you do?" Stop. Temporarily," Lyra said, panting. "Cannot destroy them, only slow down." The other two figures regrouped and retreated, their glowing eyes scanning the forest as if calculating the next move. Ethan watched them go, heart pounding, body trembling from exertion and fear. He turned to Lyra. "You're safe, for now," he said, pulling her into a gentle embrace. She rested her head against his chest, her glowing eyes flickering softly. Scared, but happy," she whispered. "You, human, strong, protect me." Ethan shook his head, trying to calm himself. "You're stronger than you think, Lyra. Together we can face them." Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra fortified the house further. Ethan studied her alien technology, learning how it worked and how to use it to defend the home. Lyra, in turn, learned more about Earth's ways, how to set traps, how to blend in, and how to move silently through the forest. Their bond grew stronger, based on trust, respect, and a shared determination to survive. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Lyra approached Ethan with a serious expression. "Ethan, I must tell truth. Something important." He nodded, sensing the gravity of her words. "Go ahead." She took a deep breath, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Before I arrived, my people created me, and others. Like me, we can hold memories, knowledge of our world, powerful, but dangerous. If used wrong," Ethan frowned. "Dangerous how?" "They fight for control. Knowledge can rebuild worlds, or destroy them. I cannot let them take it." Lyra's voice trembled, the weight of her confession evident. Ethan placed a hand on hers. "Then I understand why they're hunting you. And I promise, I won't let them take it from you. We'll protect it together." Lyra's eyes softened, her glow steadying as if Ethan's words gave her strength. She leaned slightly closer. "You, human. You, brave. I trust you." That night they sat together in the quiet house, listening to the soft hum of her vessel in the garage. Ethan couldn't help but marvel at how much their lives had changed. Just days ago he had been a quiet mechanic living alone, unaware of the vast universe beyond Maplewood. Now he was a protector, standing between an alien visitor and the forces hunting her. Suddenly a soft chime echoed from Lyra's device. She stiffened, her glowing eyes narrowing. "The tracking signal. Strong. Coming soon." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Then we prepare. Nothing will happen to you." The next night the armored pursuers returned. This time they were more cautious, more organized. Ethan and Lyra waited silently, using the shadows and traps they had prepared. When the first figure stepped into the yard, Lyra activated her device, sending a pulse that temporarily disabled the figure's movements. Ethan struck quickly, using the environment to his advantage. The fight was tense, but they managed to force the pursuers back into the forest. After the battle, Lyra collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Ethan knelt beside her, helping her sit up. You did amazing, he said, voice filled with awe. I could not without you, she whispered, her glowing eyes flickering with relief and gratitude. Ethan smiled softly. We make a good team. The following days were quieter, but the threat remained. Ethan knew the armored pursuers would not give up easily, and Lyra knew she could not stay hidden forever. Yet in this time of fragile peace, they began to understand each other better. Lyra learned about Earth, about its beauty and simplicity, and Ethan learned about her world, about courage, loyalty, and the strength that came from protecting others. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the porch, Lyra spoke softly. Ethan, I do not know future, but I trust you always. Ethan took her hand gently, feeling the warmth of her glowing skin. And I trust you, Lyra. No matter what comes, we'll face it together. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to relax completely, leaning into Ethan's side. In the quiet of the evening, with the sky painted in soft colors and the forest calm around them, they both understood something profound. Despite the danger, despite the unknown, they had found a bond that neither pursuers nor the universe could break easily. Yet deep in the shadows of the forest, unseen eyes watched them. The pursuers were regrouping, stronger and more determined than before. Ethan and Lyra's fight was far from over, and the choice between safety and freedom would soon demand courage greater than either had ever known. And as the stars began to appear in the night sky, Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, Maybe this human is a my world now. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, painting Ethan's living room in gentle gold. Outside, the forest seemed calm, almost peaceful, as if it had forgotten the battles that had taken place just days ago. Yet inside the small house, tension lingered like a shadow. Lyra moved quietly around the kitchen, her glowing blue eyes reflecting a mixture of concern and determination. Ethan watched her from the doorway. Over the past few days, they had strengthened the house, repaired her vessel, and prepared for any threats. But he could sense she carried a worry she had not shared. He crossed the room and gently touched her shoulder. Lyra, what's on your mind? She looked up at him, her expression soft but serious. Ethan, my energy. Core, weak, cannot last long without ship systems. Her voice was steady, but a subtle tremor betrayed her fear. I must stay alive. Cannot fail. You, Ethan nodded, his mind racing. We'll figure it out, he said. I'll find a way to keep you running. We'll make sure nothing happens to you. Lyra's eyes softened, a faint glow of relief brightening them. You, always, human help, even risk yourself, Ethan smiled faintly. You'd do the same for me, I'm sure. They spent the day preparing her living area, creating a safe space where she could rest, recharge, and move freely without worry. Lyra cleaned with her usual grace, arranging the room carefully, while Ethan monitored her systems, ensuring everything functioned properly. Yet even in the calm, there was a tension neither could ignore, the knowledge that danger could return at any moment. As evening approached, Lyra sat on the couch, her glowing eyes fixed on the fire. Ethan joined her, sitting silently beside her. The warmth of the flames reflected in her eyes, making her look almost human, vulnerable and alive. For a long moment, they simply sat together, neither speaking, sharing a quiet understanding that had grown over the past days. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. Ethan, I want to say something important. Ethan turned to her, his heart quickening. Go ahead, he said gently. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as they rested in her lap. You saved me from universe, from fear, from them. You gave me life, real life, not programming, not orders. Life, human. Warmth, home. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had known that he cared for her, that her presence had changed his life. But hearing it spoken aloud made it real. Lyra, he said softly. She leaned closer, her glowing eyes meeting his with an intensity that made him shiver. Ethan, I do not know. Future cannot promise long life, but as I wish, stay with you forever. Please, take me as your wife. For a moment silence fell. Ethan's mind raced, yet all he could see was the truth in her eyes. This wasn't just a plea. It was a declaration of trust, of hope, of love. Lyra, who had survived the destruction of her world, who had faced the threat of being erased entirely, had chosen to place her life in his hands, not as a machine or visitor, but as someone who wanted to share a future with him. Ethan reached out, taking her hands gently. Lyra, you've already changed my world. I've never known someone like you, never felt this way. And, yes, I will take you.
You are my partner, my friend.
My family. Her eyes brightened, her soft glow steadying as if his words had infused her with strength. A small, almost human smile spread across her face, and she leaned into him. For the first time in a long while, both of them felt a sense of peace, a quiet triumph over the chaos that had pursued them. In the following days, Ethan worked tirelessly to stabilize her energy core. Using a combination of Earth technology and her alien systems, he created a hybrid setup that allowed her to function fully without her ship. Lyra helped, offering guidance and occasionally teaching him about her world's technology, her hands glowing faintly as she adjusted delicate circuits. The house, once a quiet, lonely place, now hummed with life. Lyra cooked simple meals, cleaned, and even began tending a small garden outside, where she experimented with glowing plants from her world. Ethan watched her with awe, amazed at how seamlessly she adapted to Earth's simple routines while retaining the grace and knowledge of her own world. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky in soft orange and pink, Ethan and Lyra stood together at the edge of the forest, watching the stars begin to appear. The air was warm, carrying the scent of wet grass and flowers. Lyra's hand rested gently on his arm, her glowing eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. I thank you, Ethan, she said softly, for everything at home. Protection, care, life. You don't have to thank me, Ethan said, squeezing her hand. You've given me more than I can say. Companionship, trust, love. I've never had this before. Lyra's eyes shimmered. I feel same, life, empty and before. Now, full. Because you. For a long moment they stood in silence, letting the peacefulness of the evening wash over them. The forest was calm, the house safe, and the threat from her pursuers temporarily gone. It was a fragile peace, but it was theirs, built from trust, courage, and care. That night they sat together by the fireplace. Ethan held her hand, feeling the warmth of her glowing skin, the gentle pulse of energy that made her alive. Lyra rested her head against his shoulder, her eyes soft and luminous. You, human, brave, strong, protect me, she whispered. Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of her silver hair from her face. And you've taught me courage too, Lyra. Not just fighting, but trusting, caring, loving. You've changed me in ways I can't explain. Her eyes sparkled, reflecting the firelight. Then, together, we face future, whatever, come, yes? Yes, Ethan said firmly. Together, always. Over the next few weeks, they settled into a rhythm. Lyra adapted to life on Earth, learning to enjoy simple pleasures, tending the garden, tasting Earth foods, watching the sunset. Ethan, in turn, learned more about her world, the values, traditions, and the ways her people had lived in harmony. Their bond deepened, moving from trust to something stronger, something neither had anticipated. One quiet morning, Lyra turned to Ethan, her glowing eyes filled with emotion. Ethan, I never thought would life like this human give hope, joy, love. Ethan pulled her close. You've given me the same, Lyra, and I promise, as long as I live, I'll protect you, care for you, be by your side. Her glow brightened, steady and warm. She placed her hands over his heart. Then I'm happy on my choice. Yet stay with you forever. Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of completeness he had never known. And I'm happy too. You're not just a visitor or a stranger anymore. You're part of my life, my home, my heart. As days turned to weeks, their life together became a blend of two worlds. Ethan taught her simple Earth skills, while Lyra shared knowledge from her own civilization, creating a home that was both familiar and extraordinary. The house, once quiet and lonely, now hummed with warmth, laughter, and shared purpose. Though the universe beyond still held unknown dangers, neither of them feared it as before. They had each other, and that was enough. One evening, standing together on the porch and watching the stars, Lyra spoke softly, her voice almost a whisper carried on the wind. Ethan, thank you for life, for love, for home. Yours, always. Ethan smiled, holding her hand tightly. And I'm yours, Lyra. Always. For the first time in the quiet of Maplewood, surrounded by forest and stars, the universe seemed still. Not because danger had passed, but because, in this small house, two hearts had found courage, trust, and love, strong enough to face anything the cosmos might throw their way. Lyra, the alien housewife who had fled destruction and fear, now had a home, a partner, and a future. And Ethan, the quiet mechanic who had lived a simple life, had discovered that even the most ordinary man could protect, care for, and love someone extraordinary. The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to a bond that no force, no threat, and no distance could break. And in that moment, the universe seemed to pause, as if acknowledging that something rare and beautiful had been formed. A human and an alien, together, facing the future as one.